3 satisfying cracks echoed through the warehouse as Marcus Thompson's fists connected with flesh and bone. The first kidnapper dropped. The second stumbled backward. The third reached for his weapon too slow. In 47 seconds, it was over. Victoria Sterling, Billionaire, CEO, stared at the man who had just saved her life. She knew him. The quiet black security guard who worked the night shift. The single father who picked up his daughter from the lobby every afternoon. The man she had never once looked in the eye. But what she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Marcus Thompson had saved her life once before, 20 years ago. Comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. And if you want to know the truth about Marcus Thompson's past, hit subscribe and stay until the end. The gunshot came at 11:47 p.m. Marcus Thompson was checking the East Corridor cameras when he heard a single pop, muffled but unmistakable. 20 years in special operations had trained his ears to recognize that sound anywhere, anytime, even through concrete walls. He grabbed his radio. "Control, this is Thompson. Shots fired, executive parking level. Respond." Static. He tried again. "Control, do you copy?" Nothing. Marcus didn't hesitate. He moved. The stairwell door burst open under his shoulder. He took the steps 3 at a time, his 42-year-old body still remembering every drill, every mission, every night raid in countries whose names he'd sworn never to speak again. 8 floors down. His breathing stayed even. His heart rate held steady. The parking garage door was already open when he reached it. That was wrong. It should have been locked after 10 p.m. Security protocol. Marcus pressed his back against the wall and listened. Voices. Male. At least 3 of them. Then he heard her. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Victoria Sterling's voice carried across the concrete expanse, sharp and defiant, despite the fear underneath. "My security team will be here in..." "Your security team is taking a nap, sweetheart." A man laughed. "The whole building's communication system went dark 5 minutes ago. Nobody's coming." Marcus edged forward, staying low behind the parked vehicles. Through the gap between a Mercedes and a BMW, he saw them. 3 men in tactical gear, masks, military-grade equipment, professional. And Victoria Sterling, her wrists already zip-tied, being forced toward a black van with no plates. Marcus assessed the situation in 2 seconds. 3 hostiles. 1 civilian. No backup. No weapon except his hands and 20 years of training that the United States government had spent $3 million perfecting. The odds weren't good. He moved anyway. The first man never saw him coming. Marcus's forearm crushed his windpipe before he could make a sound. The body hadn't even hit the ground when Marcus was already spinning toward the second target. "What the..." The second kidnapper raised his weapon. Too slow. Marcus grabbed his wrist, twisted, and felt the satisfying snap of bone. The gun clattered to the concrete. A knee to the solar plexus, an elbow to the temple, and the man crumpled. The third kidnapper had Victoria now using her as a shield, a pistol pressed to her head. "Don't move," he screamed. "I'll kill her. I swear to God I'll..." "You won't," Marcus said calmly. "Back off. Who the hell are you? Nobody important." Marcus took a step forward. "But I'm going to need you to let her go." "Are you crazy? I've got a gun to her head." "I can see that." Another step. "But here's what you don't see. Your safety's still on." The kidnapper's eyes flicked down for just a fraction of a second. That was all Marcus needed. He closed the distance in 2 strides. His left hand pushed the gun away from Victoria's head. His right hand found the man's throat. One precise strike to the vagus nerve and the kidnapper's eyes rolled back. Victoria stumbled forward as the body fell. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground. "It's over," he said quietly. "You're safe." She looked up at him. Mascara streaked with tears, her perfectly tailored suit torn at the shoulder. And for the first time in 3 years of working in the same building, Victoria Sterling actually saw Marcus Thompson. "You," she whispered. "You're the security guard from..." "Yes, ma'am." How did you? She couldn't finish the sentence. Her body was shaking, adrenaline and terror finally catching up to her. We need to move. Marcus helped her stand. There might be more of them. Can you walk? She nodded, though her legs seemed uncertain about the plan. Marcus guided her toward the emergency exit, his arms supporting her weight while his eyes scanned every shadow, every corner, every possible threat. My phone, Victoria said. They took my phone. I need to call. Already done. I triggered the silent alarm before I came down. Police should be here in 4 minutes. 4 minutes? How do you know? Average response time for this precinct. I know things, Miss Sterling. She looked at him differently then. The way people look at someone when they realize they've made a terrible mistake in judgment. What's your name? She asked. Your full name. Marcus Thompson, ma'am. How long have you worked for my company, Marcus? 3 years. 4 months, 11 days. 3 years. Victoria's voice cracked. You've worked for me for 3 years and I've never once... She didn't finish. She didn't have to. The police arrived in 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Marcus noted the discrepancy. The precinct was getting faster. Sirens lit up the parking garage in alternating waves of red and blue. Paramedics rushed to Victoria. Detectives secured the scene. The 3 unconscious kidnappers were cuffed and loaded into separate ambulances. Through it all, Marcus stayed in the background, answering questions when asked, providing details when necessary, never volunteering more than required. Detective Raymond Walsh, a heavy-set man with 30 years on the force, approached him with a notepad. You're the one who took down all 3 of them. Yes, sir. Walsh looked at the unconscious men, then back at Marcus. By yourself, no weapon. That's correct. You want to tell me how a security guard... Walsh checked his notes. Making $19 an hour managed to neutralize 3 armed professionals in under a minute. Marcus met the detective's eyes. I got lucky. Walsh stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, but there was no humor in it. Right. Lucky. He handed Marcus a card. We're going to need a full statement. Come by the precinct tomorrow morning. And Mr. Thompson, don't leave town. Marcus took the card. I have no intention of going anywhere, detective. Across the garage, Victoria Sterling sat in the back of an ambulance, a shock blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The paramedic had checked her vitals twice, but she wasn't paying attention to him. She was watching Marcus Thompson. He stood alone near the stairwell entrance, answering questions from another officer with the same quiet calm he'd shown while taking down 3 armed men. His uniform was torn. There was blood on his knuckles, not his own. 3 years, she thought. 3 years I've walked past this man without a single acknowledgement. Her executive assistant, Claire, came running through the police tape. Victoria. Oh my God, are you okay? I came as soon as I heard. I'm fine, Claire. The board is already calling. Mr. Harrison wants an emergency meeting first thing in the morning. The press is going to be all over this. We need to prepare a statement. Claire. Victoria's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Who is Marcus Thompson? Claire blinked. Who? The security guard. The one who works the night shift. The one who just saved my life. I don't know, Victoria. He's just a security guard. He's been here for a few years, I think. Keeps to himself. Has a daughter he picks up from the lobby sometimes. A daughter. Yes, a little girl. 8 or 9 years old. Sweet kid. Always has her nose in a book. Victoria watched as Marcus finished his conversation with the officer and began walking toward the exit. He hadn't looked at her once since the police arrived. Find out everything about him, Victoria said. Everything? Victoria, you need to rest. You've just been through a trauma. I've been through worse, Claire. Trust me. Victoria stood, shrugging off the blanket. I want his full background on my desk by noon tomorrow. Personnel file, military records, financial history. All of it. Military records. How do you know he's... Just do it, Claire. Marcus arrived home at 2:34 a.m. His apartment was small, 2 bedrooms in a building that had seen better decades. The elevator hadn't worked in 3 years. The hallway lights flickered like they were auditioning for a horror movie. But it was home. He unlocked the door quietly, careful not to wake his daughter. Mrs. Beatrice, the elderly woman next door who babysat Destiny whenever Marcus worked nights, was asleep on the couch with the television still playing. "Mrs. Beatrice," Marcus touched her shoulder gently. "I'm back." The old woman stirred, blinking awake. "Marcus, Lord, what time is it?" "Late. I'm sorry. There was an incident at work." Mrs. Beatrice noticed the torn uniform, the dried blood on his hands. Her eyes widened. "Good heavens, child. Are you hurt?" "It's not my blood." She didn't ask whose it was. In the 3 years she'd known Marcus Thompson, she'd learned that some questions were better left unspoken. "Destiny fell asleep around 9, Mrs. Beatrice said, gathering her things. "She finished all her homework, read 2 chapters of her book, asked about you 3 times. 3 times. That girl worries about you, Marcus, more than a child should." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know." Mrs. Beatrice paused at the door. "You're a good father. Don't forget that." "Thank you, Mrs. Beatrice, for everything." After she left, Marcus checked on his daughter. Destiny Thompson was 8 years old, small for her age, with her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn chin. She slept with one arm wrapped around a worn teddy bear, the last gift her mother had bought before she died. Marcus stood in the doorway watching her breathe. 8 years ago, he had held his wife's hand as she bled out on a delivery table in a hospital that was supposed to be safe. The doctors said there was nothing they could do. Complications during childbirth. Rare, but not unheard of. He had lost everything that day. His wife, his will to live, his reason for continuing. And then the nurse had placed a tiny screaming baby girl in his arms. "She needs a name," the nurse had said. Marcus had looked at his daughter, this fragile creature who had cost him everything, and he had felt something he thought was gone forever. Love. "Destiny," he had whispered. "Her name is Destiny." Because she was. She was his destiny, his purpose, the only reason he had kept breathing when every fiber of his being wanted to stop. Now she slept peacefully, unaware that her father had just killed a man's career and possibly broken another man's arm. Unaware that somewhere in the city, people were asking questions about the quiet security guard who had done impossible things. Marcus closed her door gently and went to the bathroom to wash the blood from his hands. He couldn't sleep. At 4 a.m., Marcus sat at his small kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold in front of him. The adrenaline had faded hours ago, but his mind wouldn't stop replaying the night's events. 3 armed professionals, military-grade equipment, sophisticated communication jamming. This wasn't a random kidnapping. This was a planned operation. Someone with resources and knowledge of Sterling Pharmaceuticals' security systems had arranged it. And they would try again. Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call he hadn't made in 5 years. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Do you know what time it is, Marcus?" "I need a favor, Jerome." Silence on the other end. Then, "You said you were out. You said you'd never ask again." "I know what I said." "Then why are you calling me at 4 in the morning?" Marcus took a breath. "Someone tried to kidnap Victoria Sterling tonight. 3 professionals, military background, probably contracted. I need to know who hired them." "Victoria Sterling, the pharmaceutical CEO. Why do you care about—" Jerome stopped mid-sentence. "Wait, is that where you've been working, Sterling Pharmaceuticals?" "I'm a security guard there." "A security guard." Jerome laughed bitterly. "Master Chief Marcus Thompson, Navy Cross recipient. 6 combat deployments. The man who single-handedly extracted 12 hostages from a Taliban compound, you're a security guard. It pays the bills." "It's a waste, Marcus. You know it's a waste." "I have a daughter now, Jerome. Destiny is 8 years old. She needs a father who comes home every night, not a ghost who disappears for months at a time." Jerome sighed. "Fine, I'll look into it. But Marcus, you know that once you start pulling these threads, you can't stop. You remember what happened last time? I remember. 4 dead in Syria, 3 of them ours. You really want to open that box again? Marcus closed his eyes. The faces came immediately as they always did. Rodriguez, Chen, Williams. Men who had trusted him. Men who had died because of a decision he had made in a fraction of a second. This is different, Marcus said quietly. This is about protecting someone. You can't save everyone, Marcus. You learned that the hard way. I know. Marcus opened his eyes. But I can save her. And I'm going to. Morning came too quickly. Destiny bounced into the kitchen at 7 a.m. already dressed for school, her backpack stuffed with more books than any third grader should reasonably own. Daddy, you're home. She launched herself at him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. Marcus held her tight, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo, grounding himself in this moment. Hey, baby girl, sleep okay? I had a dream about flying. Destiny pulled back, grinning. I was a bird, but I could still read books while I was flying. Is that possible, Daddy? Could someone make a bird that reads, "Anything's possible, Destiny"? That's what you always say. Because it's always true. He made her breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, the same meal he'd been making for 8 years, because it was the only thing he knew how to cook well. Destiny ate while telling him about her teacher's new haircut and how Tommy Morrison had gotten in trouble for putting a frog in the girls' bathroom. Normal things. Child things. The kind of things that reminded Marcus why he had given up everything else. Daddy? Destiny's voice was suddenly serious. Yeah, baby. Your hands are hurt. Marcus looked down. Despite his efforts to clean them, his knuckles were bruised and swollen. Destiny missed nothing. I had to help someone at work, he said carefully. Someone was in trouble. Did you save them? I tried. Destiny nodded solemnly. Mrs. Beatrice says you used to save people before I was born. Before Mommy went to heaven. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Mrs. Beatrice talks too much. Is that why you have the bad dreams, because you used to save people? The question hit him like a bullet to the vest. Not lethal, but painful enough to take his breath away. Sometimes, he said finally. Saving people is hard, Destiny. Sometimes you can't save everyone, and that stays with you. Is that why you're sad sometimes? I'm not sad, baby. I have you. How could I be sad? Destiny studied him with eyes far too old for her 8 years. Then she reached across the table and put her small hand on his bruised knuckles. It's okay to be sad, Daddy. I won't tell anyone. Marcus couldn't speak. He just nodded and held his daughter's hand until it was time for school. At Sterling Pharmaceuticals, the chaos had already begun. News vans surrounded the building. Reporters shouted questions at anyone who entered or exited. Social media was exploding with speculation about the kidnapping attempt and the mysterious security guard who had stopped it. Marcus entered through the service entrance, avoiding the cameras. He wasn't supposed to start his shift until 6 p.m., but he needed to be here. Needed to see if Victoria Sterling was safe. The security office was buzzing when he walked in. Thompson. Holy hell, man. Dave Morrison. The day shift supervisor grabbed his arm. You're all over the news. They're calling you a hero. They shouldn't. Are you kidding? You took down 3 armed guys by yourself. The police are saying those men were professionals, ex-military. How the hell did you? I got lucky, Marcus said flatly. That's all. Dave stared at him. Lucky, right. That's what you're going with. The security office phone rang. Dave answered it, listened for a moment, then looked at Marcus with wide eyes. That was Miss Sterling's assistant. She wants to see you, now, in her office. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath his feet. In 3 years, he had never been above the 20th floor, never been anywhere near the executive level, never been acknowledged as anything more than another uniform in the lobby. Tell her I'll be right there, he said. The elevator to the 47th floor felt like a coffin. Marcus stood alone as the numbers climbed, watching his reflection in the polished metal doors. He saw what Victoria Sterling would see: a middle-aged black man in a security guard uniform, bruised knuckles, tired eyes. The doors opened to a world he didn't belong in. Marble floors, original artwork on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, with a view that probably cost more than his annual salary per square foot. Victoria Sterling's assistant stood waiting. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Claire. Miss Sterling is expecting you." She led him through a maze of offices where people in expensive suits stopped their conversations to stare. Marcus kept his eyes forward, his shoulders back. He had walked through hostile territory before. This was no different. The corner office door opened. Victoria Sterling stood behind a desk that probably cost more than Marcus's apartment. She had changed since last night. Fresh clothes, perfect makeup, not a hair out of place. But Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders, the dark circles barely concealed beneath her eyes. "Leave us, Claire," Victoria said, "and hold all my calls." The assistant hesitated. "Ma'am, is that—" "Now, Claire." The door closed behind Marcus. He stood at attention, waiting. Victoria walked around her desk, studying him like he was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. Then she did something that surprised them both. She sat on the edge of her desk, breaking the barrier of formality. "3 years," she said quietly. "3 years you've worked in this building, and I've never spoken a single word to you." "That's correct, Miss Sterling." "Why didn't you ever say anything? Ask for a better position, demand recognition." "I didn't want recognition. I wanted a paycheck." "A paycheck?" Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I looked at your file this morning, Mr. Thompson. You were hired at the lowest security classification we offer. $19 an hour, no benefits for the first year, night shifts exclusively. Do you know how many times you've been passed over for promotion? 7 times. 7 times. And you never complained, never requested a meeting, never filed a grievance." She leaned forward. "Why?" Marcus met her eyes. "Because I didn't need advancement, Miss Sterling. I needed invisibility." "From what?" "From people like you." The words hung in the air between them. Victoria's face flickered with something, shame perhaps, or recognition. "I also looked into your background." She continued, her voice harder now. "Your personnel file says you worked private security in Maryland before coming here. No military service listed, no special training, just a standard security certification and a clean background check. That's what the file says. But that's not true, is it?" Marcus said nothing. Victoria stood and walked to her window, her back to him. "Last night I watched you take down 3 trained professionals in under a minute. I saw your face while you did it. There was no fear, no hesitation, no uncertainty. You moved like a machine, like you'd done it 1,000 times before." She turned to face him. "Who are you, Marcus Thompson?" "And I want the truth this time." For a long moment, Marcus considered his options. He could lie. He had been lying for 3 years. One more wouldn't make a difference. But something in Victoria Sterling's eyes stopped him. Something vulnerable beneath the armor she wore like a second skin. "I was a Navy SEAL," he said finally. "Master Chief Special Warfare Operator. 6 deployments. 18 years of service." Victoria's expression didn't change, but her hands gripped the windowsill behind her. "Why did you leave?" "Because I made a mistake." Marcus's voice was flat. "A judgment call during an operation in Syria. 3 of my men died because of it." "The military blamed you?" "No. The military cleared me. Said it was an impossible situation, conflicting intelligence, no way I could have known." "But you blamed yourself." Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. Victoria was silent for a long moment. Then she walked to her desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a manila folder. "This came in this morning," she said. "Background check I ordered on you. The real one, not the sanitized version in your personnel file." She handed him the folder. Marcus didn't need to open it. He knew what was inside. Navy Cross, Victoria read from memory. Silver Star with V device, Bronze Star with Combat V, Purple Heart 3 times. Classified operations in 14 countries. You extracted 12 hostages from a Taliban compound by yourself after your entire team was killed in an ambush. That was a long time ago. 3 of those hostages wrote letters of commendation. One of them was a senator's daughter. She called you a... Victoria checked the file. Guardian angel, who appeared from nowhere and saved us from certain death. Marcus felt the familiar weight settling on his shoulders, the weight of a past he couldn't escape. Why are you telling me this, Miss Sterling? Because I need to understand something. Victoria closed the folder. A man with your record, your capabilities, your decorations, you could work anywhere. Private security firms would pay you 6 figures. The CIA, FBI, NSA. They'd all recruit you in a heartbeat. Instead, you chose to work the night shift at my company for $19 an hour. Why? Marcus looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. He saw a woman who had built walls so high she couldn't see over them anymore. A woman who had sacrificed everything for power and was only now realizing what it had cost her. Because I have a daughter, he said simply. And she needs a father who comes home every night. Not a hero, not a legend. Just a dad who makes her breakfast and helps with her homework and is there when she has bad dreams. Victoria's composure cracked. Just for a moment. Just enough for Marcus to see the human being beneath the CEO. You gave up everything, she whispered. For her. I gave up nothing, Marcus corrected. I gained everything that matters. The silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. Finally, Victoria straightened the mask, sliding back into place. Those men who tried to kidnap me last night, she said. They weren't random criminals. They were professionals. Someone hired them. I know. I need protection, real protection, not the kind my current security team provides. I can recommend some firms. I don't want a firm, Mr. Thompson. Victoria met his eyes. I want you. Marcus shook his head. I'm not that man anymore. You were that man last night. You saved my life. I reacted on instinct. That's different. Is it? Victoria walked toward him, stopping close enough that he could smell her perfume, something expensive, probably French. Last night I watched you make a choice. 3 armed men, 1 unarmed civilian. The smart thing would have been to call for backup and wait. Instead, you attacked. I didn't have time to... You had exactly enough time, Victoria interrupted. Enough time to assess the situation, calculate the odds, and decide that the risk to yourself was worth taking to save someone you'd never even spoken to. She paused. That's not instinct, Mr. Thompson. That's character. Marcus said nothing. I'm offering you a position as my personal security detail, Victoria continued. 6 figures, full benefits, flexible hours, so you can be there for your daughter. You'll report directly to me, no one else. And if I say no, then you go back to the night shift and I hire someone else who isn't half as qualified. Victoria's voice softened. But I'm hoping you won't say no, because I have a feeling that whoever tried to kidnap me last night isn't going to stop. And I'd rather have a guardian angel watching my back than a stranger. Marcus thought about destiny, about the small apartment and the broken elevator and the job that barely covered the bills, about the nightmares that still woke him at 3 a.m. soaked in sweat and reaching for teammates who were no longer alive. And he thought about Victoria Sterling, the woman who had never looked at him, the woman who was now asking him to save her life again. One condition, he said finally. Name it. My daughter. She stays my priority. If she needs me, I go. No questions asked. Victoria nodded. Agreed. And I need to know everything. Who your enemies are, who wants you dead, every skeleton in every closet. I can't protect you from threats I don't know about. Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Fear, maybe? Or recognition of what she was about to reveal. There are things in my past, she said slowly, that could destroy me if they came to light. Then we start there. Victoria walked to her window and looked out at the city sprawled beneath her. From up here, the people below looked like ants. Easy to forget they were human. My father built this company from nothing, she said quietly. He was a genius, a visionary, but he was also ruthless. Some of his early business practices were questionable. Define questionable. Bribes to FDA officials, suppressed clinical trial data, a competitor who died in a car accident that might not have been an accident. Victoria turned to face him. I've spent 5 years trying to clean up his legacy, but there are people who know things, people who could use that information to destroy everything I've built. People like whoever hired those kidnappers. Yes. Marcus processed this information, filing it away with the same precision he'd once used for mission briefings. I'll need access to all your father's records, business dealings, personal correspondence, financial transactions, everything. That will take time to compile. Then start compiling. Marcus moved toward the door. I'll be back this afternoon. Try not to get kidnapped before then. For the first time, Victoria Sterling smiled. It changed her entire face, making her look younger, softer, almost human. Mr. Thompson. He paused at the door. Thank you. For last night. For everything. Marcus nodded once. That's what guardian angels do, Miss Sterling. He left before she could respond. In the elevator going down, Marcus allowed himself one moment of doubt. One moment to wonder if he was making the right choice. His phone buzzed. A text from Jerome. Found something. These guys weren't just hired guns. They were sent by someone close to you. Someone who knows exactly who you are. Marcus stared at the message as the elevator descended. Someone close to him. Someone who knew his real identity. Someone who had wanted Victoria Sterling kidnapped and had known that Marcus would try to stop it. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. Marcus Thompson straightened his uniform and walked out into a world that had just become far more dangerous than he had imagined. Marcus read Jerome's message 3 more times before the words finally sank in. Someone close to you. Someone who knows exactly who you are. He deleted the text and pocketed his phone. The lobby security desk was empty. Dave must have stepped away for coffee. Marcus used the moment to slip into the back office and pull up the building's visitor logs from the past month. 1,200 names. Vendors, clients, job applicants, delivery personnel. Any one of them could be the connection. Any one of them could be watching him right now. His phone rang. Private number. Thompson? You should have stayed invisible, Marcus. The voice was digitally altered, impossible to identify. Now you've made yourself a target. Who is this? Someone who remembers Syria. Someone who knows what really happened in that compound. Marcus's blood went cold. That mission was classified. Nothing stays classified forever. You of all people should know that. The voice paused. Stay away from Victoria Sterling. Walk away from this job. Take your daughter and disappear. That's the only warning you'll get. The line went dead. Marcus stood motionless in the security office, his mind racing through possibilities. The Syria mission had been buried under so many layers of classification that even most Pentagon officials didn't have access to the full details. Only a handful of people knew the truth about what happened in that compound, and most of them were dead. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from the school. Mr. Thompson, please call the main office regarding Destiny. Not an emergency. Marcus was out the door before he finished reading. He broke 6 traffic laws getting to Westbrook Elementary. The drive that should have taken 20 minutes took him 11. He didn't care about the cameras or the tickets that would follow. The principal's office was painted in that particular shade of institutional beige that seemed designed to make everyone uncomfortable. Destiny sat in a plastic chair, her backpack clutched to her chest, her eyes red from crying. Daddy. She ran to him, and Marcus caught her in his arms, checking her automatically for injuries. No visible wounds, no signs of trauma, just tears, and that look children get when the world has been unfair to them. "What happened?" Marcus asked, looking at Principal Henderson. The woman behind the desk shifted uncomfortably. "There was an incident during lunch. Some of the other children were saying things." "What kind of things?" "Mr. Thompson, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Tell me what happened to my daughter." Principal Henderson sighed. "Some of the children saw the news this morning about the kidnapping at Sterling Pharmaceuticals. They recognized you from the security footage that leaked online." Marcus felt his stomach drop. He had avoided the cameras in the parking garage, but someone must have captured him entering or leaving the building. "They were calling Destiny's father a rent-a-cop," Henderson continued carefully, "saying that black security guards shouldn't be on TV, that her family must be poor if you work nights for minimum wage." Destiny buried her face in Marcus's chest. Her small body shook with the effort of holding back sobs. "Who said these things?" Marcus's voice was calm. Too calm. "I've already spoken to the children involved. They'll be serving detention for the rest of the week. But Mr. Thompson, I have to be honest with you. Given the media attention, things might get worse before they get better. Perhaps keeping Destiny home for a few days?" "No." Marcus set his daughter down gently, but kept his hand on her shoulder. "My daughter did nothing wrong. She shouldn't have to hide because other people's children don't know how to behave." "I understand, but—" "Principal Henderson." Marcus met the woman's eyes. "I spent 18 years serving this country in places you've never heard of, doing things you couldn't imagine. I didn't do it so that my daughter would have to run away from bullies in a school I pay taxes to support." Henderson's face flushed. "Mr. Thompson, I didn't mean—" "Destiny will be here tomorrow, same time as always. And I expect those children to apologize to her face. Am I clear?" The principal nodded slowly. "Yes, perfectly clear." Marcus took Destiny's hand and walked out of the office without another word. In the car, Destiny was quiet for a long time. Marcus let her process, knowing she would speak when she was ready. "Daddy." Her voice was small. "Yeah, baby." "Is it true what they said? That we're poor?" Marcus pulled the car over to the side of the road. He turned to face his daughter, taking her small hands in his large, calloused ones. "Listen to me, Destiny. Being poor isn't about money. Being poor is when you don't have love, when you don't have people who care about you, when you don't have someone to make you breakfast and help you with your homework and hold you when you're scared. So we're not poor. Baby girl, we are the richest people I know, because I have you, and you have me, and nothing," his voice caught, "nothing anyone says can change that." Destiny nodded slowly. Then she said something that nearly broke him. "Those kids said you're just a security guard, that you're nobody. But I know that's not true, Daddy. I know you're special." Marcus pulled her into a hug, holding her tight enough that she wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. "You're the special one, Destiny. You're the best thing I ever did." He dropped Destiny at Mrs. Beatrice's apartment with strict instructions to call him immediately if anything seemed wrong. The elderly woman took one look at Marcus's face and nodded without asking questions. "She'll be safe with me." "Mrs. Beatrice said, go do what you need to do." "How do you know I need to do anything?" Mrs. Beatrice smiled, showing the gap where her two front teeth used to be. "Because I've been watching men like you my whole life, Marcus Thompson. Men with that look in their eyes. The look that says someone's about to pay for hurting the people they love." Marcus didn't deny it. "I'll be back by 7. I'll have dinner waiting." Back at Sterling Pharmaceuticals, the chaos had intensified. The leaked security footage had gone viral. Marcus's face was now on every news channel, every social media platform, every tabloid website. Mystery security guard saves billionaire. CEO Black Night Shift, hero who is Marcus Thompson. Single father, by day. Special forces by night. The speculation ranged from accurate to absurd. Some outlets painted him as a hero. Others questioned whether a black man with apparent military training should be anywhere near a defense-adjacent company. The internet has always found a way to make everything about race. Marcus ignored all of it and took the elevator to the 47th floor. Victoria was waiting for him in her office, her face drawn with exhaustion. "The board is demanding answers," she said without preamble. "They want to know why I'm entrusting my safety to a man we know nothing about. They're threatening to call an emergency meeting to discuss your and I, quote, concerning background. Let them meet." Marcus. "Miss Sterling, I've been threatened, my daughter's been bullied, and my face is on every news channel in America. A board meeting is the least of my concerns right now." Victoria studied him with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. "What kind of threats?" "Someone called me this morning, told me to stay away from you, said they knew about my military service. Things that aren't in any file." "Things like Syria." Marcus went still. "You know about Syria." "I know what the official records say. Classified operation casualties sustained no actionable intelligence recovered." Victoria walked to her desk and opened a drawer. "But this morning I made some calls. People my father knew. People who owe the Sterling family favors." She pulled out a folder thicker than the one she'd shown him earlier. "Tell me about Operation Nightfall, Marcus." The name hit him like a physical blow. He hadn't heard those words spoken aloud in 5 years. He had tried to bury them along with the 3 men who died because of his decisions. "Who told you that name? Does it matter?" "Yes. It matters very much." Victoria set the folder on her desk. "A man named General Patrick Morrison. He said he was your commanding officer for the last 2 years of your service." "Morrison!" Marcus breathed the name like a curse. "Morrison is the one who recommended me for that mission. He's the one who provided the intelligence that turned out to be wrong. He also said you blamed yourself for what happened. That you resigned your commission even though the military wanted to promote you. That you disappeared off the grid for almost a year before resurfacing in Maryland with a new identity and a newborn daughter." Marcus said nothing. "The official story is that your team was ambushed during a hostage extraction. 3 operators killed 12 hostages, rescued 1 enemy compound destroyed. You received the Navy Cross for conspicuous gallantry." "I know what the official story says. But that's not what really happened, is it?" Marcus walked to the window, putting his back to her. The city stretched out below, indifferent to the secrets being excavated in this glass tower. "We had intel on a high-value target," he said finally. "An ISIS commander responsible for dozens of American deaths. The mission was supposed to be simple. Insert neutralize extract. We'd done it 100 times before. But something went wrong. Everything went wrong." Marcus's voice was hollow. "The intel said 12 hostages lightly guarded. What we found was a trap. 40 hostiles, fortified positions, heavy weapons. Someone had leaked our mission profile. A mole. Had to be. Someone with access to classified communications. Someone who knew exactly when and where we'd be hitting that compound." Victoria moved closer to him. "And your men?" "Rodriguez was the first to fall. Took a round in the neck 30 seconds after we breached. Chen tried to pull him to cover and caught 3 in the chest. Williams..." Marcus stopped, his jaw clenching. "Williams was my best friend. 15 years we'd served together. His daughter was the same age as Destiny." "What happened to him?" "I had to make a choice. The hostages were in the East Building. The enemy was concentrated in the West. Standard protocol said to extract the hostages first, deal with the hostiles second. But the hostages were guarded by only 3 men. If we hit the West Building first, we could eliminate the main threat and then extract at leisure." "You went west." "I went west. By the time we cleared the building and reached the hostages, Williams had taken a round through his vest. Kevlar stops bullets. It doesn't stop the hydrostatic shock that tears your organs apart." Marcus turned to face her. His eyes were dry, but his voice carried the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. "He died in my arms asking me to tell his daughter that Daddy loved her. Those were his last words. Not curses, not blame. just love for a little girl he'd never see again. Victoria was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Marcus had ever heard it. You made a tactical decision under impossible circumstances. No one could have known. I knew. Marcus cut her off. I knew the moment I chose west instead of east. I felt it in my gut. But I ignored it because the mission profile said west was the right call. The intelligence said west was where the threat was. And the intelligence was wrong. The intelligence was designed to make us fail. Whoever leaked our mission wanted us dead, wanted us to breach that compound and never come out. Did you ever find out who? Marcus shook his head. The investigation went nowhere. Too many layers of classification, too many people with access, too much plausible deniability. After Williams died, I didn't care anymore. I just wanted out. Victoria processed this information, her analytical mind clearly working through the implications. Someone called you this morning who knew about this mission. Yes. Someone who wants you to stay away from me. Yes. Which means the person who tried to have me kidnapped and the person who betrayed your team in Syria might be connected. Marcus had already arrived at this conclusion, but hearing Victoria say it aloud made it feel more real, more dangerous. That's what I'm afraid of, he admitted. Then we need to find out who they are before they make another move. Victoria's chin lifted. You didn't think I was going to sit on the sidelines while someone tries to destroy my company and kill my new head of security, did you? Miss Sterling. Victoria, if we're going to be working together, you can at least call me by my first name. Marcus hesitated. First names implied familiarity, partnership, trust, things he had learned not to give easily. Victoria, he said, finally tasting the word. This isn't a corporate merger. These people have already killed before. They won't hesitate to kill again. Then we'd better move fast. Victoria picked up her phone. I'm calling General Morrison. If someone on the inside leaked your mission, he might know who had access to that intelligence. Morrison won't talk to you. He will if I tell him what I know about his offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Victoria smiled grimly. My father kept files on everyone who ever did business with him. Insurance policies, he called them. Morrison was one of his military contacts. There's a reason he answered my call this morning. Marcus felt a grudging respect for this woman who had been born into wealth but clearly understood how power really worked. Make the call, but put it on speaker. I want to hear everything. Victoria dialed. The phone rang twice before a gravelly voice answered. Miss Sterling, I was wondering when you'd call back. General Morrison, I have Marcus Thompson here with me. We need to ask you some questions. A long pause. Then, Thompson, it's been a while. 5 years, Marcus said flatly. You could have called. I tried. You disappeared. Changed your name, moved across the country, started a new life. I got the message. The message was that I didn't want to be found by anyone connected to what happened in Syria. And yet here you are working for the daughter of Robert Sterling, the same Robert Sterling who helped fund half our black operations in the Middle East. Morrison's voice carried an edge of irony. That's quite a coincidence, Thompson. Marcus exchanged a glance with Victoria. Her father had funded military operations. What do you mean, General? You didn't know. Morrison laughed bitterly. Robert Sterling wasn't just a pharmaceutical executive. He was a silent partner in some of the most sensitive intelligence operations of the past 2 decades. How do you think he built his empire so fast? Government contracts, black budget money, quid pro quo arrangements that never made it into any official record. Victoria's face had gone pale. My father was involved with military intelligence. Your father was intelligence, Miss Sterling. The pharmaceutical company was cover. The real money came from defense contracts, surveillance technology, chemical research that was never approved by the FDA because it was never intended for civilian use. Marcus felt the pieces clicking into place in his mind, a pattern he should have seen years ago. The operation in Syria, he said slowly. Sterling Pharmaceuticals supplied some of our equipment. Specialized medical kits, field trauma supplies. I remember seeing the logo on the boxes. That's right, and Robert Sterling personally approved every shipment to your team. He knew exactly when and where you'd be operating. Are you saying Robert Sterling leaked our mission? I'm saying Robert Sterling was one of only 5 people who knew the full details of Operation Nightfall, and 2 of those people are now dead. Victoria grabbed Marcus's arm. My father wouldn't have betrayed American soldiers. He was a patriot. Your father was a businessman, Morrison interrupted. And businessmen make deals. Some of those deals have consequences that take years to surface. What kind of deals? Marcus demanded. The kind that get 3 good men killed and leave a 4th man wondering why he survived. Morrison's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry, Thompson. I should have told you this years ago. But the investigation was shut down from above. Someone with serious power wanted the Syria mission buried. Who? I don't know. But I can tell you this, whoever it was, they're still active, still protecting whatever secrets Robert Sterling took to his grave. Morrison paused. And now they know you're getting close. That kidnapping attempt wasn't random. It was a warning. To whom? To both of you. To Miss Sterling to stay quiet about her father's past. And to you, Thompson, to walk away before you uncover something that could get you killed. The call ended, leaving Marcus and Victoria in heavy silence. Victoria sank into her chair, her carefully maintained composure finally cracking. My father, she whispered. All those years, all those lectures about integrity and honor and legacy, and he was involved in something that got people killed. Marcus didn't have comfort to offer. His own feelings about Robert Sterling were evolving rapidly from indifference to suspicion. We need to find those files, he said. Whatever your father was hiding, it's the key to everything. The kidnapping, the Syria mission, the person who's threatening us now. The files could be anywhere. My father was paranoid about security. He kept physical records, digital backups, safety deposit boxes in 3 different countries. Then we start looking. Tonight. Victoria looked up at him, her eyes red but determined. You realize that if we find what we're looking for, it could destroy everything my father built. Everything I've spent my life protecting. I know. And you're still willing to help me. Marcus thought about Destiny, about Mrs. Beatrice, about the small apartment that had become his sanctuary. He thought about Williams dying in his arms, about the 3 years he'd spent hiding from a past that had finally found him. Someone threatened my daughter today, he said quietly. Someone made her cry because of what I did to protect you. I don't walk away from that. Not ever. Victoria stood and walked toward him. For a moment, Marcus thought she might embrace him. Instead, she extended her hand. Partners. Marcus took her hand. Her grip was stronger than he expected. Partners. They had no idea what they were about to uncover. No idea that the truth would be far worse than either of them imagined. No idea that before the week was over, they would both have to face the darkest moments of their pasts and make choices that would define the rest of their lives. But in that moment, standing in Victoria Sterling's glass tower as the sun set over the city, Marcus Thompson felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. It was a dangerous feeling. Hope had betrayed him before in a compound in Syria, in a hospital delivery room, in all the moments when he'd allowed himself to believe that things might turn out okay. But he held on to it anyway, because hope was all he had left. That, and a promise to a little girl who believed her daddy was special. He intended to prove her right. The search began that same night. Victoria led Marcus to a private elevator hidden behind a panel in her office wall. The elevator descended past the parking garage, past the basement levels, past the building's foundation, to a sub-basement that didn't appear on any architectural plans. My father had this built when the company went public, Victoria explained as the doors opened. He called it his insurance vault. The room beyond was larger than Marcus expected. Steel walls, climate-controlled, filled with filing cabinets and storage boxes marked with dates going back 30 years. You've never been down here before. Once, The day after he died, his attorney brought me here to show me that it existed. I was supposed to inventory everything, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Too painful. Marcus understood. Grief had a way of freezing time, making certain places and objects untouchable. "We're going to have to touch everything now," he said gently. Victoria nodded and pulled out the first drawer. They worked in silence for the first hour, sorting through decades of documents. Financial records, merger agreements, patent filings, legal correspondence. Most of it was mundane corporate paperwork, the kind of documentation any large company would maintain. Then Marcus found the locked cabinet. "This one's different," he said, examining the heavy-duty lock. "Military grade, biometric scanner." Victoria walked over and pressed her thumb to the scanner. Nothing happened. "It needs my father's print. Which means whatever's inside he never intended for you to see." Marcus pulled out a small kit from his jacket pocket. Victoria watched as he produced tools she didn't recognize. "Where did you learn to do that?" "Navy taught me a lot of things." The lock clicked open. Most of them aren't in any manual. Inside the cabinet were 3 items: a leather journal, a USB drive, and a sealed envelope with Victoria's name written in her father's handwriting. Victoria's hands trembled as she picked up the envelope. "I know that writing. That's his personal script, the one he only used for important things." "Open it." She hesitated, staring at her name, as if the letters themselves might bite her. "Whatever's in here is going to change everything, isn't it?" Marcus had no comfort to offer, probably. Victoria took a breath and tore open the envelope. The letter inside was 2 pages handwritten, dated 3 days before Robert Sterling's death. Victoria read it aloud, her voice growing more unsteady with each sentence. "My dearest Victoria, if you're reading this, it means you've finally found the courage to look into the past I tried so hard to protect you from. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the lies, the secrets, the burden I'm about to place on your shoulders. But you deserve the truth, even if it destroys everything you believed about your father." She paused, wiping her eyes. "Keep reading," Marcus said quietly. 30 years ago, I made a deal with the devil. His name was Senator Harrison Cole. He promised me government contracts, regulatory protection, and the capital I needed to build Sterling Pharmaceuticals into an empire. In exchange, I provided his intelligence operations with research technology and, most importantly, cover. For 3 decades, my company served as a front for activities that could never be traced back to official government channels. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Senator Harrison Cole. The name was familiar. A powerful figure on the Armed Services Committee known for his hawkish foreign policy views. Victoria continued reading. The Syria operation was Cole's project. He needed military assets eliminated to protect a weapons deal he had negotiated with certain parties in the region. I didn't know the full extent of what he planned until it was too late. By the time I realized that American soldiers would die because of intelligence I helped provide, the operation was already in motion. The journal fell from Victoria's hands. "My father," she whispered. "My father helped kill your friends." Marcus stood frozen, the words echoing in his mind. Robert Sterling. The man whose company he had worked for. The man whose daughter he had sworn to protect. That man had provided the intelligence that led to Williams, Rodriguez, and Chen dying in a dusty compound halfway around the world. "Keep reading," he said, his voice hollow. Victoria picked up the letter with shaking hands. "I tried to stop it. I warned Morrison that the intelligence was compromised. But Cole had too much power, too many people in his pocket. When I threatened to expose him, he reminded me of everything I had done. Every bribe, every buried report, every death that could be traced back to my decisions. He owned me, Victoria, and through me he owned you." "The helicopter accident," Marcus said suddenly. "Your father's death. That wasn't an accident, was it?" Victoria looked at him, horror dawning in her eyes. "The letter, it says that if anything happens to him, it will be because he finally found the courage to do what he should have done 30 years ago. He was planning to testify, to bring down Cole and everyone connected to him. And Cole had him killed before he could." The realization hung between them like a blade. Senator Harrison Cole murdered my father to protect himself, Victoria said slowly, as if testing the words. And now he's coming after me because he thinks I might know what my father knew. The kidnapping makes sense now. They weren't trying to ransom you, they were trying to silence you. Victoria's grief transformed into something harder, colder. Then they miscalculated. Because now I'm not just going to expose him, I'm going to destroy him. That's not going to be easy. Cole has been building his power for decades. He has allies in every branch of government, connections in intelligence agencies, private military contractors who do his dirty work. He also has enemies, people who have been waiting for a chance to take him down. Victoria picked up the USB drive. And if I know my father, this drive contains everything we need to do exactly that. They took the materials back to Victoria's office. Marcus connected the USB drive to an air-gapped laptop, while Victoria paced her mind, racing through the implications of what they had discovered. The drive contained hundreds of files. Financial transactions, recorded phone calls, photographs, internal memos. 30 years of evidence documenting Senator Harrison Cole's corruption. His illegal weapons deals, his covert operations, and most damningly, his involvement in the deaths of American service members. This is enough to put him away for life, Victoria said, scrolling through the files. Maybe enough for a death sentence. It's also enough to get us both killed the moment he finds out we have it. Then we need to move fast. Get this to someone who can use it before Cole knows what's happening. Marcus shook his head. We can't trust anyone in government. Cole has too many people in his pocket. Any leak, any hint that this evidence exists, and it'll disappear along with both of us. Then what do you suggest? Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. Mrs. Beatrice's number. Marcus, you need to come home right now. The fear in her voice made his blood run cold. What happened? Is Destiny okay? She's fine, she's fine. But there are men outside the building. 2 of them in a black car. They've been sitting there for an hour watching the entrance. Marcus was already moving toward the door. Lock everything. Don't let anyone in. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Marcus, I'm scared. These men don't look like police. They're not. Just stay calm. Keep Destiny in the back room. I'm coming. He hung up and turned to Victoria. They found my apartment. They know about my daughter. Victoria grabbed her coat. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. You stay here where it's safe. Safe. There is no safe anymore, Marcus. Not for either of us. She met his eyes with fierce determination. Your daughter is in danger because of my family. Because of secrets my father kept. I'm not going to hide in my tower while you face this alone. There was no time to argue. They took Victoria's private elevator to an underground parking level that connected to a service tunnel. I didn't know this existed, Marcus said, as they hurried through the concrete passageway. My father was paranoid. He built escape routes from every building he owned. Victoria pulled out her phone and summoned a car to meet them at the tunnel's exit. Another thing I never understood until now. They emerged 3 blocks from Sterling Pharmaceuticals, well away from any surveillance that might be watching the main exits. A black sedan was waiting. Victoria drove while Marcus tried to reach Jerome. Talk to me. It's worse than I thought, Jerome said without preamble. The men who tried to kidnap Victoria weren't just hired guns. They were former contractors for a private military company called Blackstone Security. Guess who Blackstone's primary client is? Senator Harrison Cole. Got it in one. But here's the thing. Blackstone was officially dissolved 3 years ago after some embarrassing congressional testimony. The company doesn't exist anymore. But its people do. Exactly. And right now, about a dozen of those people are mobilizing in your city. They're not being subtle about it either. Someone wants you scared. They want me to run. Or they want to flush you out. Make you do something stupid. Jerome paused. Marcus, these guys aren't amateurs. They're trained killers who've been doing this for 20 years. You can't take them all by yourself. I don't have to take them all. Just the ones who threaten my daughter. Jerome sighed. I was afraid you'd say that. Look, I've got some friends who still owe me favors. Former Rangers Delta guys, people who'd love a chance to put some hurt on Cole's operation. I can have them in your city by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning might be too late. Then stay alive until then. Can you do that? Marcus looked at Victoria, her jaw set with determination as she navigated through traffic. I'll do my best. They reached Marcus's neighborhood in 12 minutes. Victoria parked 2 blocks from his building, and they approached on foot using the shadows for cover. The black car was exactly where Mrs. Beatrice had described it. 2 men inside, both watching the building's entrance. What's the plan? Victoria whispered. You stay here. If anything goes wrong, you take this. He handed her the USB drive. And you get it to a journalist. Someone outside Cole's reach. The Washington Post has a reporter named Sarah Chen who's been investigating government corruption for years. Find her. Marcus, promise me. Victoria took the drive. I promise. But nothing's going to go wrong. Marcus moved through the darkness like he'd been born in it. 20 years of training took over muscle memory, guiding him through patterns of movement designed to make him invisible. He approached the car from the blind spot, staying low, timing his movement with the rhythm of passing traffic. When he was close enough, he could see both men clearly. Military bearing, alert but not expecting immediate contact. One was checking his phone. The other was watching the building. Marcus made his move. The driver's window shattered under his elbow. His hand found the man's throat before he could reach for his weapon. A precise strike to the carotid, and the driver slumped unconscious. The passenger reacted faster than expected, already drawing his gun as Marcus came around the car. But Marcus had anticipated this. He grabbed the gun arm twisted and used the man's own momentum to slam his head into the dashboard. 30 seconds. Both men unconscious. No shots fired. Marcus zip-tied their wrists and ankles with materials from their own pockets, then searched them for identification. No wallets, no ID cards. But one of them had a phone with recent text messages. Package confirmed at location. Awaiting green light. Target Alpha Mobile. Tracking in progress. Secondary objective, acquire the child for leverage. Marcus's vision went red. They were going to take Destiny, use her as leverage, hurt his little girl to get to him. He forced himself to breathe, to think. Rage wouldn't save his daughter, only precision would. He took both phones and ran toward the building. Mrs. Beatrice opened the door before he knocked her face pale with relief. Thank the Lord, I've been praying since I hung up. Where's Destiny? In her room. I told her you were coming. She's been so brave, Marcus, not a single tear. Marcus moved through the apartment, checking every room, every window, every possible point of entry. When he reached Destiny's bedroom, she was sitting on her bed with a book open in her lap, but she wasn't reading. Daddy? She ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Mrs. Beatrice said there were bad men outside. They're gone now. Daddy took care of them. Are we safe? Marcus knelt down to her level, cupping her face in his hands. This precious girl who was his whole world. This innocent child who was being dragged into a war she didn't understand. We're going to have to leave for a little while, he said gently. You, me, and a friend of mine. We're going to go somewhere the bad men can't find us. Like a vacation. Something like that. Will I miss school? Marcus smiled despite everything. Probably. Is that okay? Destiny considered this seriously. Will there be books where we're going? As many as you want. Then it's okay. He helped her pack a small bag while Mrs. Beatrice gathered some supplies from the kitchen. The elderly woman pressed a bag of food into his hands. You're a good man, Marcus Thompson. You take care of that baby girl. I will. And Mrs. Beatrice, you should stay with your sister in New Jersey for a few days, just to be safe. She nodded, understanding more than she let on. I'll leave tonight. Victoria was waiting in the car when Marcus emerged with Destiny. The little girl's eyes widened when she saw the stranger in the driver's seat. Daddy, who's that? This is Miss Victoria. She's a friend. She's pretty. Victoria smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. Thank you, sweetheart. Your daddy talks about you all the time. He does. All the time. He says you're the smartest girl he knows. Destiny beamed. That's because I read a lot. Reading makes you smart. Daddy says so. They drove through the night, leaving the city behind. Marcus navigated to a safe house Jerome had set up years ago, a cabin in the mountains 3 hours from the city. No one knew about it, except the two of them. Destiny fell asleep in the back seat within 20 minutes, exhausted from the stress of the evening. Marcus watched her in the rearview mirror, his heart aching with a mixture of love and fear. She's beautiful, Victoria said quietly. She looks like you. She has her mother's eyes. Tell me about her mother. Marcus was silent for a long moment. He hadn't talked about Jasmine to anyone in years. Her name was Jasmine. We met at a coffee shop in Virginia when I was between deployments. She was a nurse, smartest, kindest woman I ever knew. She made me believe that there could be more to life than missions and objectives. What happened? Complications during childbirth. The doctors said it was rare but not unheard of, a condition no one caught until it was too late. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She held Destiny for 3 minutes before she died, just long enough to say, "I love you," and take care of our baby. Victoria reached over and placed her hand on his arm. The touch was gentle, human, a connection he hadn't allowed himself in years. I'm sorry. So am I, every day. They drove in silence for a while, the only sound Destiny's soft breathing from the back seat. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Go ahead. When you found out what my father did, that he was involved in the operation that killed your friends, why didn't you walk away? Why are you still helping me? Marcus considered the question carefully before answering. Because your father didn't kill my friends. Senator Cole did. Your father made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but he was trying to make them right at the end. He was going to testify. He was going to expose everything, even if it meant destroying himself. That doesn't change what he did. No. But it changes what you have the chance to do. Marcus looked at her. You can finish what he started. You can bring down Cole and everyone connected to him. You can make sure Williams and Rodriguez and Chen didn't die for nothing. Victoria's eyes glistened in the darkness. And what about you? What do you get out of this? Justice, closure, the chance to look at my daughter and know that the world she grows up in is a little bit less corrupt than it was before. That's a heavy burden to carry. I've been carrying heavy burdens my whole life. At least this one means something. They reached the cabin just before midnight. It was small but secure, with reinforced doors and windows, a generator for power, and enough supplies to last 2 weeks. Marcus carried Destiny inside and laid her on one of the beds. She stirred briefly, mumbling something about books and vacations, then settled back into sleep. Victoria stood by the window, looking out at the darkness. What happens now? Now we wait. Jerome's people will be here by morning. Once we have backup, we can start planning our next move. And then we go to war. Not the kind with guns and bombs, though there might be some of that too. The kind that's fought with information and exposure. We're going to drag Harrison Cole into the light and watch him burn. Victoria turned to face him. In the dim light of the cabin, she looked younger than her years, vulnerable in a way she never allowed herself to be in public. I've never done anything like this before. The business world is cutthroat, but this is different. People are trying to kill us. Are you scared? Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you alive. It's when you stop being scared that you make mistakes. Victoria walked over to him, standing close enough that he could smell the faint trace of her perfume mixed with the sweat of a long, stressful day. Thank you, Marcus, for everything. For saving my life, for standing by me, even when you found out about my father, for protecting us when you had every reason to walk away. I haven't saved you yet. We've got a long way to go before this is over. I know, but I want you to know that whatever happens, I'm grateful. And I'm sorry. For the way I treated you before all this. For never seeing you when you were right in front of me." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. A wall he had built years ago developing its first crack. "You're seeing me now," he said quietly. "That's what matters." They stood there in the darkness, two people from different worlds brought together by tragedy and conspiracy, beginning to understand that the connection between them was becoming something neither had expected. Outside, the night was quiet. But somewhere in the city, they had left behind Senator Harrison Cole, was learning that his carefully constructed empire was about to face its greatest threat. And he would do whatever it took to protect it. Marcus woke to the sound of his phone vibrating against the wooden table. 3 hours of sleep. His body screamed for more, but years of training had conditioned him to function on almost nothing. He checked the screen. Jerome. "They're here," Jerome said. "6 men, all former special operations. Good people. They'll be at your location in 20 minutes. Any movement from Cole's people?" "That's the strange part. Nothing. After you took out those 2 surveillance guys, everything went quiet. No chatter, no movement, no response." Marcus didn't like quiet. Quiet meant planning. Quiet meant someone was gathering resources for a bigger strike. "Keep monitoring. Let me know the second anything changes." He hung up and found Victoria already awake, sitting at the small kitchen table with a cup of coffee. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked. "Sleep is a luxury we can't afford right now." Victoria pushed a second cup toward him. "I made this an hour ago. Probably cold by now, but it's something." Marcus took the cup and drank. The coffee was bitter and lukewarm, but he'd had worse in places where comfort was measured in milliseconds between gunfire. "Jerome's people are almost here. Once they arrive, we can start planning our approach." "I've been thinking about that." Victoria pulled out her laptop. "The files on that USB drive are damning, but they're not enough by themselves. We need corroboration, living witnesses who can testify to Cole's crimes." "Most of the people who knew are dead." "Most, not all." Victoria turned the screen toward him. "I found a name in my father's notes. Someone who worked with Cole during the early years. Someone who disappeared about 15 years ago." Marcus looked at the screen. A photograph of a man in his 50s, distinguished with the bearing of someone who had spent his life in positions of power. "Who is he?" "His name is Dr. Edward Walsh. He was the lead researcher on a classified project my father funded in the 90s. According to these notes, Walsh had a crisis of conscience. He wanted to expose what they were doing, but my father convinced him to disappear instead. Set him up with a new identity, a new life, far from anyone who might come looking. If he's been hiding for 15 years, he won't want to be found." "Maybe not. But if we can convince him that Cole is finally going down, he might be willing to testify. His knowledge combined with my father's files could be enough to bring the whole operation crashing down." Marcus studied the photograph. Something about the man's eyes reminded him of the look he'd seen in combat veterans who had witnessed too much and said too little. "Do you know where he is?" "My father's notes mention a town in Montana, small place off the grid, the kind of place where someone could disappear." Before Marcus could respond, Destiny appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, I had a bad dream." Marcus crossed the room and knelt beside his daughter. "What kind of dream, baby?" "There were men with masks. They were trying to take me away from you. I was screaming, but you couldn't hear me." Marcus's heart clenched. Even in sleep, the danger had found its way into his daughter's mind. "It was just a dream, Destiny. Daddy's right here. No one's going to take you anywhere." "Promise." "I promise." He carried her back to bed and sat with her until her breathing steadied. When he returned to the kitchen, Victoria was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "She's lucky to have you," she said quietly. "I'm the lucky one. She's the only thing that kept me alive after Jasmine died. The only thing that made me want to keep going." Marcus, I've been thinking. Victoria hesitated. This mission to Montana, the confrontation with Cole, it's going to be dangerous. Maybe Destiny should stay somewhere safe while we... No. The word came out sharper than he intended. I'm not letting her out of my sight. Not until this is over. But if something happens... If something happens to me, you take her, you raise her, you give her the life I couldn't. Victoria stared at him. Marcus, I can't. Promise me. The intensity in his voice silenced her protests. She nodded slowly. I promise. The sound of vehicles approaching cut through the morning stillness. Marcus moved to the window, his hand instinctively reaching for the weapon at his hip. 6 men emerged from 2 SUVs. Even from a distance, Marcus could recognize the way they moved. Controlled, alert, dangerous. Jerome's voice came through the phone. That's them. Former Rangers, 2 Delta guys, 1 Marine Raider, best of the best. Marcus opened the door and stepped onto the porch. The lead man approached, extending his hand. Master Chief Thompson, it's an honor, sir. I'm Captain Davis. Jerome told us what you're up against. Former Master Chief, I'm a civilian now. Davis smiled slightly. With respect, sir, men like us are never really civilians. We just pretend to be. Marcus couldn't argue with that. Inside, he briefed the team on everything: the kidnapping attempt, the files, Senator Cole, the threat to his daughter. The men listened without interruption, their faces revealing nothing. When Marcus finished, Davis spoke first. What's our objective? Protect my daughter. Help me get to a witness in Montana who can corroborate the evidence against Cole. And when the time comes, help me take down anyone who stands in our way. Rules of engagement. Defensive only, unless they shoot first. I want Cole exposed in a courtroom, not martyred in a firefight. The men exchanged glances. This wasn't the kind of mission they were used to. No kill orders, no sanctioned targets, just protection and evidence gathering. But they had all seen good men destroyed by corruption from above. They knew what it meant to fight for justice instead of just following orders. We're in, Davis said simply. They spent the next hour planning. 2 men would stay at the cabin to protect Destiny. The rest would accompany Marcus and Victoria to Montana. Jerome would coordinate from a distance, monitoring communications and providing intelligence. Everything was falling into place. Then Victoria's phone rang. She looked at the screen, her face going pale. It's a blocked number. Answer it. Put it on speaker. Victoria accepted the call. Hello, Miss Sterling. The voice was smooth, cultured, with a southern accent that spoke of old money and older power. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Marcus recognized the voice immediately. He had heard it on television, in congressional hearings, in campaign ads that promised security and strength. Senator Harrison Cole. Senator. Victoria said, her voice steady, despite the fear in her eyes. I don't believe we've had the pleasure. Let's dispense with the games, Miss Sterling. You found your father's files. You know what I did. You think you can use that information to destroy me. Cole chuckled. I admire your ambition. It reminds me of Robert in his younger days. My father was nothing like you. Your father was exactly like me. The only difference is that he developed a conscience at the end. A fatal flaw, as it turned out. Marcus took the phone from Victoria's hand. Cole, this is Marcus Thompson. A pause. Then, the security guard. No, forgive me, the former Navy SEAL. I've heard impressive things about you, Mr. Thompson. Syria in particular. Such a tragedy losing those men. But then again, tragedies are often necessary for the greater good. You murdered 3 of my brothers. I made a strategic decision. They were casualties of a larger operation sacrificed for objectives you couldn't possibly understand. I understand perfectly. You sold weapons to terrorists and killed American soldiers to cover your tracks. Cole's voice hardened. Careful, Mr. Thompson. You're playing a game far above your pay grade. I'm not playing any games, and neither is Miss Sterling. We have evidence that will put you in prison for the rest of your life, maybe even earn you a needle in your arm. Evidence can disappear. Witnesses can be silenced. I've been doing this for 30 years, Mr. Thompson. Do you really think a washed-up soldier and a grieving heiress can threaten me? Marcus looked at Davis and his team. 6 hardened warriors ready for battle. He thought of Destiny sleeping in the next room. He thought of Williams dying in his arms in that dusty compound. "We're not threatening you, Senator. We're coming for you." Cole laughed. "Brave words. But I wonder how brave you'll feel when you realize what I've already set in motion." The line went dead. Everyone in the room felt the shift. The game had changed. Cole wasn't just on the defensive anymore. He was making a move. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check the news." Victoria grabbed her laptop and pulled up a news site. The headline hit them like a physical blow. Sterling Pharmaceuticals. CEO accused of corporate fraud. Anonymous tip reveals decades of financial irregularities. "He's trying to discredit me," Victoria said, scrolling through the article. "Make it look like I'm a criminal so no one will believe anything I say about him." "It's a distraction," Marcus said. "He's buying time while he prepares something bigger." His phone buzzed again. Another text. "You should have taken my warning, Mr. Thompson. Now your daughter pays the price." Marcus's blood turned to ice. He ran to the back room where Destiny was sleeping. The bed was empty. The window was open. And on the pillow, a note written in block letters, "We have her. Come alone to the warehouse at 47th and Industrial. 1 hour. Bring the evidence, or she dies." Marcus couldn't breathe. The world narrowed to a single point of white-hot rage. "Marcus," Davis's voice cut through the haze, "we need to think tactically. This is obviously a trap." "I don't care if it's a trap. They have my daughter. And if you go in alone, you'll both die." Cole gets the evidence, eliminates his witnesses, and walks away clean. Victoria grabbed Marcus's arm. "He's right. We need a plan." "There is no plan." Marcus's voice cracked. "That's my little girl. The only thing I have left in this world." Davis stepped forward, placing both hands on Marcus's shoulders. "Look at me, Master Chief. Look at me." Marcus met his eyes. "I have 2 daughters at home, 7 and 9. I know exactly what you're feeling right now. But the only way you save Destiny is by being the operator you were trained to be. Not a father, not a grieving man, an operator. Can you do that?" Marcus forced himself to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The technique he had used 1,000 times before missions that could end in death. "Yes," he said finally. "I can do that." They planned quickly. Davis and 2 of his men would approach from the rear. 2 others would cover the exits. Marcus would enter through the front as demanded, but he would be wearing a wire. Jerome would monitor from a mobile command post. Victoria insisted on coming. "Absolutely not," Marcus said. "Cole wants the evidence. If I show up with you, it might buy us time, make them think we're surrendering. And if they kill you, then you'll have a clear conscience to do what needs to be done." Victoria's eyes were fierce. "I'm not staying behind Marcus. Not this time." There was no time to argue. They moved. The warehouse was exactly the kind of place Marcus had raided 100 times before. Industrial district, minimal lighting, multiple entry points, terrible sight lines. Perfect for an ambush. Perfect for an execution. Marcus approached the main entrance with Victoria at his side. His weapon was visible. They would expect him to be armed, but his real advantage was the team positioning themselves in the shadows. The door opened before they reached it. A man in tactical gear gestured them inside. "Weapons on the ground. Both of you." Marcus complied slowly, buying time for Davis's team to get into position. Inside, the warehouse had been converted into a makeshift command center. Communications equipment. Tactical displays, a dozen armed men positioned around the perimeter. And in the center, sitting in a chair with her hands tied, was Destiny. "Daddy, I'm here, baby. Everything's going to be okay." "Touch her, and I'll kill everyone in this room," Victoria said, her voice ice cold. A door opened, and Senator Harrison Cole stepped into the light. In person, he looked exactly like his photographs. Distinguished, powerful, with the easy confidence of a man who had never faced real consequences for his actions. "Miss Sterling, Mr. Thompson, thank you for accepting my invitation. Where's my daughter?" "Safe, for now." Cole smiled. "The evidence, please." Victoria pulled the USB drive from her pocket. "First, let Destiny go." "I'm afraid that's not how this works. The evidence first. Then we'll discuss the terms of your release." "What guarantee do we have that you'll let us go?" "None whatsoever." Cole spread his hands. "But what choice do you have?" Marcus felt the familiar calm settling over him. The operator taking control, pushing the father down into a place where emotions couldn't interfere. He counted the guards. 12. 2 by each exit, 4 around the perimeter, 2 flanking Cole. All armed with automatic weapons. Professional stances. Bad odds. But he'd faced worse. "Senator," Marcus said, his voice even. "Before we do this, I want to know one thing." "Ask." "Syria. The intelligence leak that got my men killed. Was it worth it?" Cole considered the question, as if Marcus had asked about the weather. "Strategic calculations are rarely about individual lives, Mr. Thompson. Your men were acceptable losses in a larger operation. Their sacrifice enabled us to eliminate a much greater threat and secure a position that has benefited American interests for 5 years. Their names were Williams, Rodriguez, and Chen. Williams had a daughter. She's 13 now. Never got to say goodbye to her father. Touching, but ultimately irrelevant." Marcus smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "I disagree, Senator. I think it's very relevant. Because Williams's daughter is the reason I'm going to destroy you." Big words for a man with no leverage. "See, that's where you're wrong." Marcus's eyes never left Cole's. "You think the evidence on that drive is your only problem, but I made copies, sent them to journalists, federal prosecutors, foreign intelligence agencies. By tomorrow morning, your entire operation will be exposed to the world." Cole's composure flickered, just for a moment, but Marcus caught it. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Marcus tilted his head. "You've been investigating me, Senator. You know my service record. You know what I'm capable of. Do you really think I'd walk into this warehouse without insurance? Even if you did send copies, I have enough influence to suppress any investigation." "Maybe, but can you suppress all of them at once? The Washington Post, the New York Times, the FBI, MI6, Interpol. I covered every base, Senator, every single one." Victoria stared at Marcus. He hadn't told her about any copies, because there weren't any. But Cole didn't know that. "It doesn't matter." Cole's voice hardened. "You'll be dead. Your daughter will be dead. And Miss Sterling will be exposed as a fraud and a criminal. Whatever evidence emerges will be dismissed as fabrications from a desperate woman. Maybe. Or maybe the world will finally see you for what you are." Marcus took a step forward. "A traitor. A murderer. A coward who kills soldiers from behind a desk and calls it strategy." Cole's face twisted with rage. "Enough! Kill them all!" The guards raised their weapons, and the world exploded. Davis and his team breached simultaneously from 3 entry points. Flashbang grenades filled the space with blinding light and deafening noise. Marcus was already moving his body, remembering every drill, every combat scenario, every moment he had trained for. He reached Destiny in 4 seconds, cutting her restraints with a knife hidden in his sleeve. She screamed his name, but he couldn't stop to comfort her. "Stay behind me, baby. Don't look." The firefight was brutal and brief. Davis's team was outnumbered, but better trained, better positioned, better motivated. Within 60 seconds, half of Cole's guards were down. Marcus spotted the senator running for a back exit. "Davis, the girl. We've got her, go." Marcus pursued Cole through the warehouse, dodging gunfire, leaping over obstacles. The senator was fast for his age, but Marcus was faster. He caught Cole at the back door, tackling him to the ground. They struggled, the older man surprisingly strong, but Marcus had 20 years of combat experience and a lifetime of rage to fuel him. He pinned Cole to the concrete, his hands around the senator's throat. "This is for Williams," Marcus growled. "For Rodriguez. For Chen. for every soldier you sacrificed for your greed. Kill me, and you'll never be free. Cole gasped. I have insurance too, files that will be released if anything happens to me. Your daughter's life will be destroyed. Marcus squeezed tighter. You're lying. Am I? Are you willing to take that chance? For a long moment, Marcus felt the temptation. The desire to end this man's life with his bare hands. To avenge his brothers and protect his daughter in the most permanent way possible. Then he heard Destiny's voice calling for him from across the warehouse. Daddy, Daddy, where are you? And he remembered what he had told Victoria. That Destiny needed a father who came home every night, not a ghost who disappeared into darkness. Marcus released Cole's throat and stepped back. You're not worth it, he said quietly. You're not worth becoming the monster you want me to be. He zip-tied the senator's hands and dragged him back into the warehouse where Davis's team had secured the remaining guards. Victoria ran to them, her face streaked with tears and gunpowder. Is it over? Almost. Marcus pushed Cole to his knees. Call your journalist friend. It's time the world learned the truth. Destiny broke free from Davis's protective grip and ran to her father. Marcus caught her in his arms, holding her tight enough to feel her heartbeat against his chest. Daddy, I was so scared. I know, baby, I know. But you were so brave. The bravest girl I've ever known. Did you save us? Marcus looked at Cole, defeated and broken on the warehouse floor. He looked at Victoria, already on the phone with the reporter who would expose everything. He looked at Davis and his team warriors who had answered the call when it mattered most. We all saved each other, Destiny. That's what family does. Outside, sirens began to wail. Help was coming. The truth was about to be revealed, and Marcus Thompson, the invisible man who had lived in the shadows for so long, finally stepped into the light. The federal agents arrived 17 minutes after Victoria's call. Marcus watched from a distance as they secured the warehouse, processed the surviving guards, and took Senator Harrison Cole into custody. The man who had orchestrated the deaths of American soldiers who had traded weapons with terrorists who had murdered Robert Sterling and tried to destroy everyone who stood against him, that man was now in handcuffs, being read his rights like a common criminal. It should have felt like victory. Instead, Marcus felt hollow. Destiny had fallen asleep in his arms, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. He carried her to one of the agency vehicles, where a female agent had set up a makeshift comfort station with blankets and water. She's going to need counseling, the agent said gently. Trauma like this doesn't just go away. I know. There's a good children's specialist at the Bureau, Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She's helped a lot of kids who've been through worse. Marcus looked at his daughter's face, peaceful in sleep, despite everything she had witnessed. I'll do whatever it takes to help her heal. Victoria found him there an hour later, her face pale with exhaustion, but her eyes burning with something Marcus hadn't seen before. Purpose. The FBI wants our statements. They're setting up a formal debriefing at the field office. How long? Hours, maybe days. They want everything, the files, the recordings, the testimony. They're building a case that will put Cole away for multiple life sentences. Marcus nodded slowly. What about the fraud accusations against you? Already being investigated as fabricated. Cole's people planted false documents, but they didn't cover their tracks well enough. The Bureau's forensic accountants are dismantling the whole thing. Victoria paused. My father's name will be cleared too. Posthumously, but still. He wasn't a perfect man, but he wasn't the monster Cole tried to make him. No, he was just a man who made mistakes and tried to fix them at the end. Like all of us. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the controlled chaos of the federal response. Agents moving with purpose, evidence being cataloged, witnesses being interviewed. The machinery of justice finally turning against the right target. Marcus? Victoria's voice was soft. I need to say something. Go ahead. When this is over, the debriefings, the trials, all of it, I want you to stay. Not as my security. Not as an employee. She took a breath. As a partner. Partner in what? In everything. The company, the foundation, I want to start the work that needs to be done. She met his eyes. In my life. Marcus felt the weight of her words. The offer of something he had told himself he didn't deserve. A future. A purpose beyond survival. Victoria. I'm a broken man. I have nightmares. I have baggage that would fill a cargo plane. I have a daughter who needs to be my first priority for the rest of my life. I know all of that. And you still want me around. Victoria reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold, trembling slightly, but her grip was firm. I spent 3 years looking through you like you didn't exist. I was so focused on proving myself, on living up to my father's legacy, that I forgot how to see people as anything other than obstacles or tools. Her voice cracked. You saved my life, Marcus. Not just from those kidnappers, but from becoming someone I wouldn't recognize. Someone cold and empty and alone. You would have found your way eventually. Maybe, maybe not, but I don't want to find my way alone anymore. She squeezed his hand. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to build something together. Something good. Something that honors the people we've lost. Marcus looked at Destiny still sleeping in the vehicle. He thought about Williams, about the promise he had made to a dying friend. He thought about Jasmine, about the life they had planned together before it was stolen. And he thought about the future. A concept he had stopped believing in years ago. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. I'll stay. We'll build something together. But Victoria. He turned to face her fully. I need you to understand something. I'm not the hero those news stories are going to make me out to be. I'm a man who's done terrible things in terrible places. I've killed people. I've made decisions that cost lives. I carry that weight every single day. I'm not looking for a hero, Marcus. I'm looking for someone real. Someone who understands that the world isn't black and white, that good people sometimes do bad things, and bad people sometimes have moments of grace. Victoria's eyes glistened. I'm looking for someone who can help me become better than I was. That's a lot of pressure. We'll carry it together. The debriefings lasted 4 days. Marcus told the FBI everything about Syria, about Cole's network, about the intelligence leak that had killed his teammates. He testified about the warehouse assault, about the evidence they had gathered, about the confession Cole had made when he thought he was in control. Victoria provided the financial documentation, the classified files, the recorded communications. Her father's decades of insurance policies became the foundation of a case that would eventually bring down not just Cole, but 17 other government officials and private contractors who had participated in his schemes. The media explosion was immediate and overwhelming. Senator Harrison Cole arrested for treason, murder, and conspiracy. Black security guard revealed as decorated war hero. Sterling Pharmaceuticals, CEO, and former Navy SEAL exposed decades of government corruption. The headlines ran for weeks. Talk shows debated the implications. Congressional committees launched investigations. The American public struggled to process the revelation that a sitting United States senator had sold weapons to terrorists and murdered American soldiers to cover his tracks. Through it all, Marcus tried to stay invisible. He refused interview requests from every major network. He declined book deals from 6 different publishers. He ignored the recruitment offers from private security firms willing to pay 7 figures for his services. Instead, he focused on what mattered. His daughter. Destiny started therapy 2 weeks after the warehouse. Dr. Mitchell was exactly what she needed. Patient, kind, skilled at helping children process trauma without forcing them to relive it. After 6 sessions, Destiny's nightmares had decreased from every night to once a week. After 3 months, she was sleeping through the night again. School was harder. The other children knew what had happened. Some treated Destiny like a celebrity, asking questions she didn't want to answer. Others whispered behind her back, spreading rumors that grew more outlandish with each retelling. But Destiny was her father's daughter. She faced it all with a resilience that made Marcus's heart swell with pride. Tommy Morrison said you killed 20 bad guys with your bare hands. Destiny reported one afternoon. I told him it was only 6, and you used your feet too. Marcus laughed a real laugh, something he hadn't done in years. How did Tommy take that correction? He said you're still the coolest dad ever. He wants to know if you can teach him karate. I don't know karate. That's what I told him. I said you know something better, but it's classified. Destiny grinned. Is that true? Is what you know classified? Some of it. Cool. Victoria was true to her word. 3 months after Cole's arrest, she announced the formation of the Thompson Foundation, named not after her family, but after Marcus and Destiny. The foundation's mission was comprehensive support for single parents struggling to raise children alone, job training and placement for veterans returning from service, mental health resources for first responders, and their families, scholarships for children who had lost parents to violence or tragedy. Victoria funded the initial endowment with $50 million from her personal fortune. Within a year, corporate sponsors had tripled that amount. Marcus resisted at first. I don't want my name on anything. I'm not a symbol. You already are a symbol, Victoria countered. Whether you like it or not, your story inspired millions of people. Single fathers who feel invisible, veterans who think they're broken beyond repair, Black men who've been told they can't be heroes in their own country. I didn't do any of this to inspire people. I know. That's exactly why you inspire them. The Foundation's headquarters occupied the ground floor of Sterling Pharmaceuticals. Every day, Marcus walked through a lobby where his photograph hung alongside images of the people the Foundation had helped. Veterans who had found jobs, parents who had received emergency assistance, children who had earned scholarships to colleges they never thought they could afford. He still felt uncomfortable with the attention, but he couldn't deny the good that was being done. Destiny became the Foundation's unofficial ambassador. At 9 years old, she had already spoken at 3 charity events, her natural charm and intelligence captivating audiences of wealthy donors who had come expecting dry statistics and left writing larger checks than they had planned. You should see her, Victoria told Marcus after one such event. She had the president of Goldman Sachs crying into his champagne. Crying? She told him about the night you rescued her, about how scared she was, but how she knew her daddy would come because her daddy always comes. Then she asked him if he had ever been scared and had someone come for him. What did he say? He said no. No one had ever come for him. And then he wrote a check for $2 million. Marcus shook his head in amazement. She's going to be dangerous when she grows up. She's already dangerous. She just doesn't know it yet. The trial of Senator Harrison Cole began in federal court 11 months after his arrest. The prosecution presented a case built on irrefutable evidence, financial records, classified communications testimony from former associates who had accepted plea deals in exchange for cooperation. The defense tried everything: procedural challenges, character witnesses, constitutional arguments, but nothing could overcome the weight of documentation that Robert Sterling had spent 30 years compiling. Marcus was called to testify on the 4th day of the trial. He walked into the courtroom wearing the first suit he had owned since leaving the military. Victoria had helped him pick it out charcoal gray, simple, but well cut. Destiny had adjusted his tie before he left that morning, her small fingers surprisingly deft. You look handsome, Daddy. Thanks, baby. Don't forget to tell the truth. I never forget that. The prosecution walked him through the events in Syria, the intelligence leak, the deaths of his teammates. Marcus spoke clearly and precisely, the way he had been trained to give mission briefings. No emotion, no embellishment, just facts. Then the defense attorney stood for cross-examination. Mr. Thompson, isn't it true that you blamed yourself for the deaths of your fellow soldiers? Yes. And isn't it true that you suffered from severe PTSD after returning from service? Yes. Isn't it possible that your perception of events was colored by your mental state, that you constructed a narrative of conspiracy because you couldn't accept that your own decisions led to your teammates' deaths? Marcus met the attorney's eyes. The man was good, expensive suit, confident posture, the kind of lawyer who made careers destroying witnesses. Counselor, I've spent 5 years analyzing what happened in Syria. Every tactical decision, every piece of intelligence, every moment leading up to the ambush. I know exactly what my decisions cost and what they didn't. Marcus leaned forward slightly. I hesitated for 1.4 seconds at a critical moment. That hesitation may have contributed to my teammates' deaths. I own that. I'll carry it forever. So you admit? But the intelligence that put us in that compound was deliberately falsified. The mission parameters were designed to fail. Someone wanted us dead, and that someone was your client. Marcus's voice remained steady. My guilt over my decisions doesn't change the fact that Senator Cole committed treason and murder. Those are separate things. I can be responsible for my failures and still tell the truth about his crimes. The courtroom was silent. Even the defense attorney seemed momentarily uncertain how to proceed. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Thompson, do you have anything else to add? Marcus looked at Cole, sitting at the defense table in his tailored suit, his expression carefully neutral. 3 men died in Syria because of decisions made in this country by people who never had to see the consequences. Sergeant First Class Miguel Rodriguez was 29 years old. He had a wife and 2 kids in El Paso who still don't understand why Daddy never came home. Staff Sergeant David Chen was 31. His parents run a restaurant in San Francisco. They've kept his picture on the wall since the day we buried him. Marcus's voice thickened, but he continued. And Master Sergeant James Williams was my best friend for 15 years. His daughter Emma is 13 now. She looks just like him. Every time I see her, I remember holding him while he died, listening to him ask me to tell her that he loved her. Marcus stood addressing the jury directly. I can't bring them back. Nothing I do will ever change what happened. But I can make sure the man responsible faces justice. That's all any of us can do when we lose people we love, make sure their deaths meant something. Make sure the truth doesn't die with them. He walked out of the courtroom without looking at Cole again. The verdict came 3 weeks later. Guilty on all counts. Senator Harrison Cole was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. He would die in federal prison, stripped of his power, his reputation, his legacy. Marcus didn't attend the sentencing hearing. Instead, he took Destiny to the cemetery where Williams was buried. They stood before the headstone in silence. Marcus had visited this spot dozens of times over the years, always alone, always carrying the weight of words he couldn't speak. Today, Destiny stood beside him. Is this your friend, Daddy? The one who died? Yes, baby. This is Uncle James. Was he nice? The nicest man I ever knew. He used to make everyone laugh even in the worst situations. He could find something funny about anything. What was his daughter's name again? Emma. Destiny thought about this. Maybe Emma and I could be friends, since our daddies were friends. Marcus felt tears gathering in his eyes. I think Uncle James would have liked that very much. Daddy. Destiny took his hand. I'm glad you didn't die too. So am I, baby. So am I. 1 year after the trial, Victoria and Marcus stood on the balcony of their new home, a brownstone in a quiet neighborhood, large enough for a growing family, but modest enough to feel like a real home, rather than a statement of wealth. Destiny was inside doing homework at the kitchen table while Mrs. Beatrice supervised. The elderly woman had returned from her sister's house in New Jersey and now served as a combination grandmother babysitter and moral compass for the entire household. I got a call today, Victoria said, leaning against the railing. From Emma Williams. Marcus stiffened. Emma. Is she okay? She's fine. Better than fine, actually. She got accepted to MIT, full scholarship from the foundation. Williams would have been so proud. She wants to meet you, to thank you in person for everything you did for her father, for everything you're doing for her. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He had avoided meeting Emma since the trial, afraid of what he would see in her eyes. Blame, resentment, the accusation that he had survived when her father hadn't. I don't know if I can face her. You can. Victoria placed her hand on his arm. You've faced everything else. You can face this too. Emma Williams arrived at the brownstone 3 days later. She was tall for her age, with her father's warm eyes and easy smile. When she saw Marcus, she didn't hesitate. She walked straight to him and wrapped her arms around his chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for being with him. Thank you for not letting him die alone." Marcus held her, this girl who was almost the same age as Destiny, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Forgiveness. Not from Emma, she had never blamed him, but from himself. "Your dad was the bravest man I ever served with," Marcus said when he could speak again. "He saved my life more times than I can count. The day he died, he was still trying to save people. That's who he was. That's who you should remember." Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes. "My mom told me stories about you two. How you met, the pranks you used to pull on each other. She said you were like brothers." "We were. I always wished I had gotten to meet you before everything happened. I feel like I missed out on having another uncle." Marcus looked at Victoria, who nodded encouragingly. "You didn't miss out," he said. "I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere." That night, after Emma had gone and Destiny was asleep, Marcus sat in the living room staring at a photograph of his old team. 6 men in combat gear, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning at the camera like they had all the time in the world. 4 of those men were gone now. Only Marcus and one other, a soldier named Torres, who had retired to Texas, remained. "What are you thinking?" Victoria asked, sitting beside him. "I'm thinking about legacy, about what we leave behind." And Marcus set down the photograph. "For a long time I thought my legacy would be failure. The mission that went wrong, the friends I couldn't save, the daughter I was raising alone because I couldn't save her mother either. And now I think legacy isn't about what we couldn't do. It's about what we choose to do with the time we have left." He looked at Victoria. "I chose to stay invisible for 3 years because I thought I didn't deserve anything more. I was wrong. What do you deserve? This." Marcus gestured around the room, the home they had built, the life they were creating. Happiness, purpose, a chance to build something good instead of just surviving. Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. "I used to think I had to earn everything. That love, happiness, family, they were transactions. Things you worked for and achieved, like hitting quarterly targets. What changed? You, Destiny. Learning that the things that matter most aren't earned. They're given, and received, and shared." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights through the window. 2 people from different worlds who had found each other through tragedy and emerged stronger than either had ever been alone. "Marcus," Victoria's voice was soft. "Yeah. I love you. I know we haven't said it yet. I know there's still so much we're figuring out, but I need you to know that." Marcus felt the words settle into his chest, filling spaces that had been empty for longer than he could remember. "I love you too. And Destiny. She's not just your daughter anymore. She's mine too. Ours. I know. I want to adopt her, officially, if that's okay with you, if that's okay with her." Marcus pulled back to look at Victoria. Her eyes were bright with tears and hope, and something else, a fierce determination that reminded him of the woman who had demanded answers in her office a lifetime ago. "She already calls you Mom when she thinks I'm not listening," he said. Victoria laughed through her tears. "She does. Has been for about 6 months now. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to see how long it took you to figure it out." Marcus smiled. "Consider this your formal notification." 3 months later, they stood before a judge in family court. Destiny, now 9.5, fidgeted in her new dress, while Mrs. Beatrice dabbed her eyes in the gallery. "Mr. Thompson, Miss Sterling." The judge peered over her glasses. "You're petitioning for Miss Sterling to legally adopt Destiny Thompson, is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Destiny." The judge turned to the girl. Do you understand what this means? Miss Sterling would become your legal mother with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. Destiny nodded solemnly. Yes, Your Honor. It means Victoria will be my mom for real. Not just pretend. And is that what you want? More than anything. Victoria makes my daddy happy. And she makes the best pancakes. And she reads to me every night even when she's tired from work. Destiny paused. My real mommy is in heaven, but I think she would want me to have another mommy down here. Someone to love me until I can see her again. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge had to take a moment to compose herself. Well, the judge said finally, I don't think I've ever heard a more compelling argument. She signed the papers with a flourish. Congratulations, Destiny Thompson Sterling. You officially have a mother. Destiny squealed and threw herself into Victoria's arms. Marcus wrapped them both in his embrace, and for a moment, the three of them were the only people in the world. 5 years later. The Thompson Sterling Foundation had grown into one of the largest charitable organizations in the country. Its programs had helped over 50,000 veterans find employment, provided scholarships to 3,000 children, and supported 10,000 single parents in times of crisis. Marcus served as the foundation's executive director, a role that kept him busy, but allowed him to be home every night for dinner. Victoria had stepped back from Sterling Pharmaceuticals, handing day-to-day operations to a capable CEO while she focused on the work that mattered most. Destiny, now 14, had inherited her father's quiet strength and her adopted mother's fierce intelligence. She volunteered at the foundation every weekend, helping younger children who had experienced trauma similar to what she had survived. On the anniversary of the warehouse incident, the three of them visited the memorial that had been erected for the soldiers who died in Syria. Williams, Rodriguez, and Chen were honored alongside the 12 other service members whose deaths had been connected to Cole's conspiracy. Marcus stood before the wall of names, his hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Daddy," Destiny said, "do you still have the bad dreams?" "Sometimes, not as often." "What do you do when they come?" "I remember that the people I lost would want me to keep living, to keep building, to keep loving." He looked at her. "And then I think about you, and I know that's exactly what I'm doing." Victoria joined them, slipping her hand into Marcus's. "The reporter from the Post called again," she said. "They want to do a 10-year retrospective on the Cole case. Another exclusive interview." "What did you tell them?" "That my husband isn't interested in being famous. He's interested in being present." Victoria smiled. She said that was the most romantic thing she'd ever heard. "I'm not trying to be romantic. I'm trying to be invisible." "Too late for that, I'm afraid." Victoria gestured around them. At the memorial, at the families who had come to pay respects, at the veterans who had found new purpose through the foundation. "You changed too many lives to ever be invisible again." Marcus considered this. For so long, invisibility had been his refuge, a place to hide from the guilt and grief that threatened to consume him. But somewhere along the way, he had discovered something better. A life filled with meaning, a family that needed him, a purpose that extended beyond mere survival. "I used to think that being invisible was the same as being safe," he said quietly. "That if no one saw me, no one could hurt me. No one could expect anything from me. And now I know that being seen is what makes us human. Being known. Being loved." He pulled Victoria and Destiny closer. "I spent years hiding in the shadows. I don't want to hide anymore." Destiny looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much for her age, but still held more hope than Marcus had ever thought possible. "You know what, Daddy? What, baby? I think Uncle James and Mommy are watching us right now. I think they're proud of you." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "You think so?" "I know so, because I'm proud of you. And Victoria's proud of you. And all those people you helped, they're proud of you too." Destiny squeezed his hand. "You're not invisible anymore, Daddy. You're the most visible person I know, and that's exactly how it should be." Marcus Thompson, former Navy SEAL, former security guard, now husband and father and foundation director, looked at the life he had built from the ashes of everything he had lost. It wasn't the life he had planned. It wasn't the life he thought he deserved. It was better. Because true heroism wasn't about the battles you won or the enemies you defeated. It was about the people you loved and the lives you touched and the courage to keep going when everything told you to stop. Marcus had learned that lesson the hard way, written in blood and loss and years of silent suffering. But he had learned it. And standing there with his daughter and his wife, surrounded by the names of friends who had given everything so others could live, Marcus Thompson finally understood what Williams had been trying to tell him in those last moments in Syria. Life wasn't about the mistakes you made. It was about what you did with the time that came after. And Marcus intended to make every moment count.